Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fenske. Today, I had planned to interview St. Louis Deputy Mayor Lyda Martinez. She's in the hot seat after the St. Louis Post-Dispatch obtained some leaked minutes from a meeting of the city's airport working group. That group is working towards a lease of St. Louis Lambert International Airport. Their hope is that a for-profit entity would provide a large cash payment upfront in exchange for the potential of future profit. The city has gotten interest from a number of parties, and as the working group considered which one should advance to the next round, the minutes seem to indicate that Martinez was advocating for a hometown firm to be included. That's even as other working group members objected, saying its presentation was not up to snuff. That firm is called STL Aviation Group, or sometimes Oak Tree, after the California-based investment firm that owns it, and it has major ties to the city's power brokers. It previously employed former Mayor Francis Slay's chief of staff as a lobbyist. Also part of the team is Brian Wabi, former chair of the city's Democratic Central Committee, and Catherine Hanaway, the former U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, and former Airport Commissioner Dan White, who used to be a partner at the St. Louis firm Bryan Cave, just like Lyda Martinez. Martinez's advocacy for the firm left observers wondering if the fix was in, and we planned to talk to her about it. But a few hours ago, the mayor's office called to say that Deputy Mayor Martinez would not join us today, but that Mayor Lyda Krewson would be here instead. And so here with me today in studio is a surprise guest. That's Mayor Lyda Krewson. Mayor, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to be a surprise guest here. I always enjoy coming on.
And we're enjoying the drama of the last-minute substitution.
Exactly. So, as you know, for about the last year and a half, the working group that was established has been working on whether or not we should privatize the operation of the airport. Not the airport itself. We're going to sell the airport. But whether or not we should let a private operator come in and run things. So one of the things that I've been doing for the last year and a half, and of course it's been more intense over the last, say, 6 months as this really ramped up, is I've been listening to people. Mm-hmm. I've been listening to our residents. I am out there in neighborhood meetings several times a week. I've been listening to our business community, and I've been listening to other elected officials. And frankly, I think that's what leaders do. Leaders listen. We don't have all the answers, and so we've got to listen to folks. And so in that listening, what I observe is that there's really very little support in our community for moving forward with a private operator at our airport. So we're at the fork in the road here. We have, as you mentioned, received the responses to the RFQ, but we have not issued the request for proposals yet. Mm-hmm. And so today I ask my representative, Lyda Martinez, not to vote in favor of issuing that request for proposal. That's rather big news, perhaps, but I think it's really important that we listen to people. And listening to our residents, listening to our business community, and listening to other elected officials, there is, we would have been the first in the U.S. When you're the first at something, there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of trepidation, and a lot of concern. And I just think, there's too much of that for us to move forward with this.
So by asking your representative, Deputy Mayor Martinez, not to support moving forward with this RFP, does this mean the city's exploration of airport privatization is dead?
It is.
Okay. That's a very firm answer right there. No waffling. Is this, hearing from people, is this people being skeptical of privatization or being unhappy with the way this particular process has played out?
Well, it's always difficult to know exactly what is the source of their opposition. But I think it's both, frankly. When you try to take on a big idea that's really, really different than what anybody has envisioned in the past, and maybe it's particularly in St. Louis, but we are skeptical of that. And so whether it's skepticism or displeasure about the process or just of privatization in general, hard to sort of split those hairs. But
do you
the point
share
is,
their skepticism?
I do. I think, we've had a healthy skepticism. But you've got to listen. I think this was an opportunity. And I think I'm happy that we pursued this opportunity. We've learned a tremendous amount about our airport that previously we only had inklings about. One, we know there's 1,000 unused acres at our airport. Two, we know there's almost $1 billion, 900 million, I'm rounding up, almost $1 billion in capital needs at the airport over the next 10 years or so. Some of us think, and I'm one of them, that we really need to be thinking about either a new or a substantially different terminal. We've got more gates than we need. We've got fewer flights than we need. We don't have enough cargo. We have a lot of work at our airport in order to make it an asset for our economic development activities. Other cities have already been doing this.
We're behind.
We're behind on this. So the good news about this process that we've been through for the last year and a half, and I think there is a lot of good news about it, is that we have a lot of information. We've had experts helping us develop this information. We have a good idea of what we need to do if we want to make our airport an asset for us. And so now we have to find a way of doing that that we can move forward with. I think we have everyone's attention, certainly. We have the business community's attention. Our partners with the airlines they're our most important partners. As you know, but Southwest, American, Delta, United, all of those are big carriers at our airport. They've got to be happy. So we've got an opportunity here at this fork in the road to find a new way forward.
And there has been a lot of talk about this 1,000 acres that is out in North County, St. Louis, but belongs to the city because it's part of the airport. And there were many questions raised about, hey, why would we have to lease the entire airport? Why not just contract with somebody to develop that site and wring more economic benefit out of that? Is this something where you might proceed down the road with some private developer or private company, but just for that portion of things?
That could be part of the solution. There were some when you have federal debt on it. We have about $700 million worth of debt on our airport. I think it's 691. That was the June 30th number. So we've got a lot of debt on our airport. The debt is a result of building the big runway. Some people call it W1W, building the big runway, which we use less than 10% for landings and takeoffs. That was a decision made many, many years ago, and it looked like a good decision at the time. But it has, it's been
costly.
It's been costly, and it's caused us not to be able to make some other improvements because of the debt. So we've got this unused runway. We need more cargo. We need more flights to more places more often. We've got this 1,000 acres. We've got a lot of opportunities there. But if we don't have the support of our community, of our business leaders, and our elected officials, then we're not going to get there with this process. So we've got to develop other alternatives to make this happen. We do have the commitment of the business community and the airlines to continue to work with us. That's very, very important. I don't think anyone was people lamented the airport, but nobody was really engaged to do it. Now I think everyone's really engaged to do it.
Now, the working group had been hoping to schedule a meeting for next week to continue discussion on which companies should move forward.
Right.
Will you push for a meeting for next week just to get some closure on this and to take a formal vote?
Well, I think maybe it was next week, but next week is the week of Christmas, and there are people out at. Yeah, I don't think that's not going to happen. There will be some things to unwind here. It'll be after the first of the year at this point. We're on the 20th of December. But, there are four voting members of the working group. And so they, of course, they don't have to take a vote, or they can, whichever that wants to work out. But I've asked Lyda Martinez, who represents me, not to vote for moving forward with issuing the RFP.
Okay. And would you support resurrecting that at any point in the future to say, hey, airport privatization is still something to look at. Let's start this from scratch.
That's not in my plan.
Okay. So this is not just a pause. This is a dead stop.
That is not in my plan at all.
Now, Rex Singfield had been subsidizing the city's exploration of this. My understanding is the cost of that exploration is now up to about $11 million. So is it fair to say at this point he's just out that money?
It is, unfortunately. It is. And I do have to say that for all of the criticism of this, there was no one else who stepped up and offered to pay these funds. And personally, I appreciate the investment that's been made in our airport and in really the people to help us get there. Because, we are a city without the capacity or the experience, frankly, to figure out how to do some of these things. We needed this, these consultants and this support. So yes, appreciate that investment very much.
At the same time, a lot of companies did sort of step up to the plate, put their hands in the air, put together some really detailed proposals. Are you worried that this is going to alienate some of these big airport operators who vied for this chance and now you're pulling the plug?
That's a fair question, but you have to look forward on the process and see whether or not you think your residents are going to support it, your elected officials are going to support it, and your business community is going to support it. So these companies, they're all big boys, as we say. They know there's risk involved in this, and I certainly appreciate the investment that they've made so far in their time and effort. But if you can't get all the way home, then you need to make a stop.
We're talking to Mayor Lyda Krewson. She's our surprise guest today, announcing that she is basically, in effect, pulling the plug on the city's exploration of the airport privatization that it had been working on for almost 2 years at this point. Mayor Krewson, I did want to ask you, what was the turning point for you? When did you realize this is the decision you were going to make?
Well, this is the fork in the road. We've gotten back the responses to the RFQ, and so then you have to stop and ask yourself, are we going to move forward with the next step, which is the request for proposals? And so I think you have to assess, can you be successful? Do you have the support of your community? I think absolutely leaders have to listen. And you may not always like what you hear, but you need to listen. That's what good leaders do, and then make a decision.
And so this was sort of a natural stop or go point for you because that's such a big step.
It's a fork in the road, sure. We could have done it, I suppose, before we put out the request for qualifications. It was something I was thinking about then, but that was back in 1st of October, I think. And so at this point in time, I think it's a natural stopping point.
Now, I do want to talk about Deputy Mayor Martinez, who had been set to be our guest today. And as I mentioned earlier, the minutes from the December 10th meeting showed her pushing for the STL Airport Group / Oak Tree to make it to the next round of the process. Do you have concerns about her actions?
I don't, not one bit. So this was a working group. This was a group of people coming together to say, well, we interviewed 11 people. Should we allow all 11 to respond? Should it be 10? Should it be 9, 8, 6? And so you've got to be able to have open discussions in that. I also think that, when you think about St. Louis, how accepting would we have been to have a foreign operator? These were all foreign operators. And so I just think that is a natural discussion point, and you've got to be able to discuss those kind of things to make a decision. No decision was made, of course, but absolutely. Lyda Martinez has worked in this community as an attorney for 40 years. I'm dating her, maybe give or take. She has impeccable standards, impeccable reputation, and I think I think that's exactly the conversation that should have been had.
But as Tony Messenger pointed out in his Post-Dispatch column that was posted late last night, or I guess yesterday afternoon, one of the principals in that STL Airport group / Oak Tree used to be a partner at Bryan Cave, and so did Linda. Do you think that played any role in her advocacy?
I absolutely don't. I don't know how many partners there's been at Bryan Cave over the last 40 years.
It's a huge firm.
But it's a huge firm. And, those folks, first of all, the folks who work at Bryan Cave are some of the best and brightest lawyers in our community, and they don't all stay there their entire career, and they're sprinkled throughout our community. So I absolutely don't. I think that's a fishing expedition.
So she still has your confidence?
She does.
Okay.
And we have a lot of other things to work on, by the way, in that Linda will be very valuable in, and her integrity is unparalleled.
Now, the St. Louis County Port Authority last night, they obviously didn't know that you were going to be announcing this decision today. But last night, they voted to fund their own study looking at privatization. Part of its RFP calls for a consultant to provide, quote, recommendations for regional governance implementation. Mm-hmm. Are you worried that the county is going to try to make some move to wrest control of the airport away from the city?
Well, am I worried about that? No. I mean, the county had invited me to go to their meeting yesterday afternoon, and I knew that this announcement was going to be coming here one day this week, so I certainly didn't want to make it at the County Port Commission.
Well, we appreciate that.
Exactly. And so I told them I'd be happy to come in January. So that's fine. The county, we're open to hearing all information. If their study turns up something important that we don't know about, well, that's fine. Happy to listen to that. The city of St. Louis has owned the airport it'll be 100 years next year, so 99 years. We have nurtured it, put the debt on our balance sheet. We've owned the airport for a long time. We do have governance through the Airport Commission that has county representatives on it, St. Charles, St. Clair, and, of course, St. Louis City. And I think this is a real opportunity for us to pivot to what are the alternatives for us to get a better airport. We've got to make an investment in this airport. We've got to figure out how to do it.
Are you aware of whether federal law enforcement authorities have weighed in or asked any questions about this process?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, looking ahead to what could happen next year, there was also some talk at some point that maybe some of these other entities wanted to get in on the airport. Maybe they would be wanting to put some cash in. If they wanted to get in on, say, development of that acreage, is the city interested in making that a more regional effort?
I don't know the answer to that. I think, we have to look at it. I mean, all these things are kind of hypotheticals. Well, what if this? What if that? Where we are right now is still really focused on our airport, how to get a better airport, and really how to get a better customer experience, and how to make this airport an airport with, I certainly hope, flights to Europe. And people say, well, not everybody goes to Europe. But you're right, not everybody does. But guess what? Our businesses that are here need those international flights. And so we've got to focus, keep in focus how to get a better airport.
So looking back on this process, as we discussed, it's been $11 million of Rex Sinkfield's money, not city funds, but still a lot of money. And it's been a lot of meetings, a lot of time from your administration. Looking back on it, is there anything you wish you'd done differently?
No, I think we had to go through this process. The working group, as you can see in the letter, the working group has done a yeoman's job. I mean, the 7 members of the working group now know a whole lot about our airport and about airports in general. They have worked their tails off. And if there's a regret, it's just that everybody has worked so hard on this. Mm-hmm. But we still have to make the decision that is best for our community. And when I say community, I mean the larger community here. And so I thank the working group. I thank Rex Sinkfield and the funders. I thank the advisor team that we've worked with. I'm going to leave somebody out here, but elected officials that have worked on this, and the airlines. The airlines have invested a lot of time and effort in this process, and we're all gonna. I think we'll take a little break till after the first of the year, but everybody's going to stay in this. Everybody understands that this is really important. So from that point of view, this has been a process worth doing.
So looking ahead, taking the specter of privatization off the table, it does remove a big distraction that had a lot of chaos online and criticism of your administration. Do you have anything that you're looking forward to tackling in the coming year now that this is, at least this privatization part of it, is off the table?
Well, we haven't just been doing privatization. Let me tell you, to be the mayor of a major city, you've got to be able to multitask. So we're working on lots and lots of things. But I do look forward to having a tad more time, although we can't put this airport on the back burner.
So this remains a big priority
This
for you.
remains, this should be a big priority for our community. Because we want to use our airport to attract more businesses to St. Louis, to make the businesses that are here already more able to expand, so that it creates more jobs for our people. I mean, it's really comes down to how do you create good jobs for people, and the airport's part of that process.
Well, St. Louis Mayor Lyda Krewson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate being on.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.